We've got another big week in the NHL coming up with some great matchups all across the league. We'll be talking about the best of the best in NHL Games of the Week. Let's go. Hey everybody, it is time once again for NHL Games of the Week. We'll be looking at the best matchups in the NHL over the next 7 days, Sunday through Saturday. And it's a pretty good week coming up. There's some big matchups, some great cross-conference games. There are some teams on road trips right now that are going to be playing some tough opponents. Going to be a lot of fun. Let's get into it here. Start taking a look. Starting with today, we have the 23rd of January. And we've got the Vancouver Canucks against the St. Louis Blues. This is going to be an interesting one out in the Western Conference, especially for Vancouver. They're trying to fight for a wild card spot. It's a real cluster right now of teams like right around 40 points in the West, and Vancouver is one of those teams. St. Louis is having a very strong year. This is going to be a tough game for the Canucks, but it would be a huge win if they could pull it off. And I think it's going to be a great hockey game there out West. The 24th, Monday night, we've got the Boston Bruins against the Anaheim Ducks in Boston. I will actually be at that game. Going to be absolutely awesome. Anaheim, they've had a rough last couple of weeks. They're trying to get their season back on track. They're still in a playoff spot. They're still holding well in the Pacific, but they definitely want to get their play back on track. Tough road game here for the Ducks against the Bruins. That's going to be a big one. We'll see what they're able to do there if the Bruins are the team that's able to stay hot. We got Vegas against Washington Monday as well. A little rematch from the 2018 Stanley Cup Final, and two very good teams going at it. You've got Washington, who has been struggling a little bit as of late. They're trying to maintain their position in the Eastern Conference playoff race. Vegas, they're leading the Pacific right now, one of the best teams in the West. That should be a great matchup. And then St. Louis against Calgary. This is another big one. Calgary is one of those teams right in the thick of the race in the Western Conference. St. Louis is having a very solid year. These are two good teams going at it. Should be a lot of fun. And they play twice this week. Both of those are going to be big, big matchups for both the Blues and the Flames. Moving on now to Tuesday, the 25th. We've got Vegas against Carolina. Vegas is one of those teams that's on a tough Eastern road trip here. Anaheim is as well. But that's a couple of big games in a row for Vegas. And they've got Carolina on the second half of the back-to-back. Carolina is arguably the best team in the league right now. That's obviously going to be a really tough game for the Golden Knights, but a really big game for the Golden Knights. And we'll see what those two are able to do. Philadelphia against the New York Islanders. It feels like these teams have played a ton over the past 2 weeks. I think they played twice last week. They play again this week. There's a lot of action here between Philadelphia and New York. Now, both of these teams are pretty well out of a playoff spot right now, but that's a big rivalry. It's New York versus Philadelphia. They're division rivals. They don't like each other very much. Still should be a fun game. And they're certainly going to be playing for pride in this one. And then finally, last one for the 25th, we've got the Edmonton Oilers against the Vancouver Canucks. Another big one here. Edmonton really needs to get things turned around. Now, they did pick up an impressive win over the Calgary Flames last night in the Battle of Alberta. That might be the kind of win that Edmonton needed to get things back on track. We'll see if they can carry that momentum into this week. But they've got a tough one against Vancouver, who's right there with them, fighting for a playoff spot, trying to get back into playoff position. That's a huge game in Vancouver between the Oilers and the Canucks. Finally, now moving on, Wednesday the 26th, we've got Anaheim continuing their road trip on the Eastern Seaboard as they go against the Toronto Maple Leafs. That is a big, big game there. Again, Ducks have had a little bit of a rough go the last few weeks. They're trying to get back on track. This is a big road trip for them and a big chance for them to try and start picking up some quality wins. Toronto, definitely going to be a tough opponent. Maple Leafs are having a strong year. That'll be a big game. And then Boston is on the road again in Colorado on Wednesday night. And this is a big one. Colorado's been one of the hottest teams in the NHL, one of the best teams in the NHL. Might be able to argue the best team. I think, them, Carolina, Florida, they all make really good cases to be the best team right now. But Colorado's right there is one of the best. Now, Boston's also been very, very hot. They've won most of their games in January. They're having a great month. But going on the road, this is the Bruins' first road game in a while. I think it's been close to like 2.5 weeks since the Bruins have been on the road. This is going to be a really, really interesting game and a big one between the Bruins and the Avs. 27th, we've got Vegas against Florida. As again, Vegas's Eastern Conference road trip continues here, and they get another massively difficult opponent on this trip. Man, they go from Washington to Carolina, now to Florida, who's, again, one of the top teams this year. And, again, it's just a massive trip here for the Golden Knights. And we'll see how they're able to do on the road against some very, very difficult opponents. But that'll be another great game. Calgary and St. Louis play again, a second time this week. 27th game is in St. Louis. And, again, just huge matchup. St. Louis trying to maintain in the Central Division, stay up near the top, possibly compete to win that division down the line when we get towards the end of the season. Calgary's trying to get into a playoff spot. They're not right now, but they're within striking distance. It's a big cluster for the wild card spots in the West, and Calgary's right there, so that's a huge 2 points on the line. Vancouver against Winnipeg. Talk about two teams fighting for those wild card spots in the West. Vancouver and Winnipeg both right in the thick of the playoff race in the Western Conference. Huge matchup between those two on Thursday night. And then Nashville against Edmonton. Again, this is such a crucial week for the Oilers to try and get back on track. Nashville's been one of the best teams in the West this season. This is not going to be an easy game for Edmonton. Nashville's going to come in there and really give them a tough fight. I expect a playoff-style hockey game between those two teams. Should be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a really important game as to who wins that one, because the Oilers at this point need every big win that they can get. Friday, there's a few games on Friday, but none of them really jumped out to me as game of the week. So we're moving on now to Saturday. We've got the Jets against the Blues. Again, Winnipeg is right in the thick of that Western playoff race right now. St. Louis, a huge week for them. Some very, very tough opponents. Some really good games for the Blues. They're going to prove, if they're for real in the Central or not with some of these matchups this week. We'll see how they do. But big playoff implications there. Vegas continuing on the road trip, man. Just brutal schedule here for the Golden Knights. It's great games, but really tough for Vegas to have 4 extremely difficult games this week. This time's against the defending champs in Tampa Bay. We're really going to learn how good Vegas is or isn't on this road trip, that's for sure, because they are playing some of the best teams in the East all trip long. And Tampa Bay certainly is one of those. And then finally, we've got Vancouver against Calgary. Two teams, again, massive cluster in the West playoff race for those wild card spots. Two teams right in the middle of it, fighting it out for playoff positioning. Vancouver and Calgary, huge game there. So those are your games of the week for this week in the NHL. There are some awesome matchups, particularly with this Western Conference wildcard race that's going on right now. And obviously we're only around, the halfway point of the season. Playoff spots are not being decided right now. It's not like it's the end of the year or anything, and 1 week isn't going to make or break your playoff position, but you have a chance to pick up some big wins this week if you're one of these teams like the Oilers, like the Canucks, like the Flames, like the Jets that are right in the thick of this playoff race. They've got a massively important schedule this week. And it's going to be interesting to see which teams come out on top and which ones kind of sink a little bit here over these next 7 days. But some awesome games throughout the week. Going to be a lot of fun. Some great hockey to watch. I know I'll be watching as many of these as I possibly can. And with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, our merchandise store, memberships, and donation links are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys soon.